Welcome to another bonus episode of the PFF College Football Show. Max Chadwick alongside Dalton and Wassman here. And Dalton, we're talking some high school football right now. I know your favorite topic of conversation right now, but we have to talk about it because we had two major quarterback flips yesterday. We'll start off with the first one. The number one overall player in the country, Bryce Underwood, after months of rumors that Michigan was making a Godfather-type offer in NIL, he flips from LSU to Michigan. What was your initial reaction to that major news?
I think it was much needed in Michigan. When you look at what the struggles they've had this season, they've got a 5-5 record so far, and you're talking about a team that's outside the top 100 in the FBS in passing grade, pass blocking grade, and receiving grade. The problem this season is they just never had a plan on offense after all of the talent they lost last year, right? You lost your starting quarterback, you lost Blake Corum at running back, your top two receivers, your 6 offensive linemen. I mean, there just wasn't a plan. If Michigan's defense could have had them in Big Ten contention still this year, the best D-line in the country, and they could still work it on the back end a little bit. But offensively, there was just no plan. And for them, especially in the passing game, to be as inept as they've been this season, there's really no excuse for it when you think about it.
No, really not. And just kind of go behind the curtain of what the offers were reported as right now. So the Advocate is reporting that LSU is offering $1.5 million per year. Michigan apparently offered $12 million over 4 years. So that's basically $3 million a year, double what LSU is offering, according to Matt Moscana on Twitter. So who knows? NIL reporting has not been the most accurate at times. There's a lot of times where deals just aren't close to what guys are reporting out there. So who knows what the actual number is. But, Bryce Underwood did post on his Instagram story saying when the whole $10.5 million offer came out, saying there's a graphic that someone posted saying Bryce Underwood is not taking that offer. And he reposted that onto his story. So have to imagine that Michigan upped the offer a little bit to enough where he was like, all right, I can't deny that, obviously, right? So it's a big offer. It's the biggest NIL deal ever. And now, Dawn, I think with this kind of money that's being floated around out there and with this highly touted of a recruit, he's one of the highest rated quarterback recruits we've had in the last several years. This is going to be like a quarterback that's going to go in with maybe as much pressure as like an Arch Manning, as a Trevor Lawrence going into Clemson, maybe even more so with all the money that's floating around right now. So I think he's going to be a guy that could be the day one starter for Michigan immediately.
Yeah, I could see that. I still think they need a reasonable plan and to surround him with talent. Again, this entire offense outside of Colston Loveland this year has been short of talent, and Loveland's going to get taken in the first 40, 50 picks of the draft. So I think they need an entire plan to develop this entire offense. Sharon Moore's really got to put it together around Underwood, because I don't care how good your quarterback is. We saw this even with, say, a Shedeur Sanders last year. If you can't block and you can't get open, you can't catch the football, none of it really matters, even for a guy like Underwood. So they need a plan to surround him with talent. They need a plan really schematically. I'm curious, are they going to open this offense up after being, all those years in the Jim Harbaugh era of putting 2 tight ends on the field and running the football? That's all they can do this year, right? Are they going to open this up and try to match, say, more explosive teams like in Ohio State or even the way that Penn State's playing right now?
Yeah, definitely. So before we move on to the next quarter we're talking about, you watched a little bit of Bryce Underwood yesterday, watching his, obviously just his highlight film, his huddle film. But when you watched them, what did you think of the kid?
I think, first of all, since he did this yesterday, we've seen just wild comparisons when you talk about I've heard Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and every all-star quarterback we've seen named. I think actually the comparison that you first made to me a while back to Trevor Lawrence makes the most sense. I think he is an above-average athlete. I don't think he's a Lamar Jackson or Jaden Daniels level athlete. He's got a terrific arm for obviously a kid that age. I mean, it's unbelievable. And I could see the Lawrence comparison as a strong-arm pocket quarterback who can do some things out of the pocket, but that's not going to be the foundation of his game. I think the vertical passing game is going to come, and then I think he's just going to have to get used to throwing into some tighter windows in college.
He's such a, developed and quarterback, and he's such an accomplished quarterback too. Right now, I think he has a 50-4 record as a starter in Michigan right now. He has 2 state titles entering his senior year. Maybe he's won his third one. I think the playoffs are still going on right now, so he's fighting for his 3rd state title at least, or maybe he has already won it, honestly. But he's just a very, very talented guy with, like you said, the pocket presence I thought was really good. The arm strength is really good. Processing ability is really good. I think this is a guy that you can feel pretty comfortable starting immediately as a true freshman, which Michigan probably will need him to do, honestly. And now that you're paying him reportedly $3 million a year, that's more than I think any other NIL deal ever in college football. I think that he's going to be relied on immediately, and it's going to be hard to keep that guy on the bench, honestly. Dalton, another major flip that we had yesterday was Julian Lewis, who was once committed to USC. Then USC, went with another quarterback we'll talk about in a little bit as well. But then they ended up going with Julian Lewis going to Colorado instead. So Colorado getting a high 4-star quarterback or a 5-star, depending on what recruiting service you look at. But according to the On3 industry ranking, he is a high 4-star. What was your first reaction to Julian Lewis announcing his commitment to Colorado?
I actually think watching him a bit, he's a pretty natural heir to Shedeur Sanders as a guy who, Lewis doesn't have the tools that a lot of these other guys in these top 10 quarterbacks have, but he's an urgent rhythm passer. He's a guy who wants to throw the football on time. His feet really move in the pocket, I think, in a way that allows him to have a lot of rhythm. And, he can be a creative improviser, but I think more often he improvises to throw. And to me, that sounds a lot like Shedeur Sanders, right? And it's funny to me, I think Deion Sanders was just talking about last week that, look, when I bring in freshmen, I expect them to play. I don't do this old school college thing where, I'm going to sit a freshman for 3 years and then develop them all the way for 1 year of production. You look at a guy like even their starting center, Cash Cleveland right now, or Draylen Miller at receiver. Colton Hood's a young kid who's been playing. Amarion Miller is a guy who's played in his younger years, where you're talking about he wants Lewis probably to come in and have an impact. So I would expect that he's at the very least going to compete heavily to be the starter next year and possibly win that job.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the guy, what I would say about him is that he's a very high floor quarterback, but the ceiling probably is a little bit lower. Like, he's only 6 feet tall, only 186 pounds right now. The arm strength is pretty average compared to other top quarterbacks in this class. Not a great runner either. I think he has 0 rushing touchdowns, at least entering his senior season. He's a very young kid, though, too. Him and Bryce Underwood are actually very young for their class. It could actually be 2026 prospects if they wanted to be. Lewis, I know, reclassified into this class, so he will be 17 years old in September of his freshman year at Colorado. So he's a very, very young player. But I do think there's a high floor there. I think he's a very accurate quarterback. He's a really good distributor of the football. And, yeah, that fits kind of the mold of Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders also is not going to wow you with his physical tools, but he's a very accurate distributor. He plays kind of the point guard role of that offense. And I think Julian Lewis could do that immediately as well. And I think, Dawn, unless they go out and get a guy in the transfer portal, I think Julian Lewis will most likely be the starting quarterback for Colorado next year.
Yeah, with what they have on their roster currently, it sure looks like that. And I think what they like most, you mentioned Shedeur, is the urgency. It's the urgency within the pocket for me. I think this is a guy who wants to distribute the football, and Colorado is going to find weapons. I know they're going to lose several weapons. Every receiver and their mother's committed to the Shrine Bowl right now, but they're going to find more weapons and more receivers, and we've seen now they're going to start building this thing in the trenches. I think Colorado has a real chance here to stick around as a powerhouse if they do this right in the Big 12.
Absolutely. And, there's a lot of schools that I would say, if you're starting a true freshman quarterback, I don't know. But for Michigan and Colorado, these are two kids that I think are pretty polished. Like, I would say Bryce Underwood and Julian Lewis are two of the more polished quarterbacks that we have. So if there's anyone that you want starting immediately, these are probably two of the top guys you want. Now, maybe the ceiling for Julian Lewis isn't as high as, say, a Bryce Underwood or some other guys we're going to talk about in just a second, but day one starter, I would feel really comfortable starting Julian Lewis out there more so than any of the other top quarterbacks in the class. And speaking of, Dalton, let's go over the top 10 quarterbacks in this class and where they're currently going to school right before National Signing Day coming up very, very soon. So obviously, Bryce Underwood is the number 1 overall recruit, number 1 quarterback as well. He is going to Michigan. Then we also have Tavian St. Clair, another 5-star, number 2 overall recruit, going to Ohio State. Keelan Russell, the number 3 overall recruit, going to Alabama. Don, I looked it up. This is the first time ever that the top 3 overall recruits came from one position. So the top 3 recruits in the 2025 class are all quarterbacks, Keelan Russell being the third one, going to Alabama. Another 5-star, and Husan Longstreet going to USC is the reason why Julian Lewis was going to go to Colorado. Deuce Knight, another 5-star, going to Auburn. Julian Lewis right there at number 6, the highest ranked 4-star, going to Colorado. Deuce Knight going to Auburn. Jaron Kiave Sagapolotelli going to Cal. Matt Zollers going to Missouri, number 8. Camario Taylor going to Mississippi State, number 9. And Bryce Baker going to North Carolina at number 10. So, Dawn, you actually, I know this is something you don't love doing, but you did dive into the film for basically all of these guys in their huddle film. Is there anyone that really stood out there, anyone that you kind of like the film and you think could maybe make an immediate impact, or maybe a guy that's a long-term guy that you think has a lot of potential? Who did you like in this class?
So I think along with the 2 guys that we've already talked about, I think those 2 and St. Clair are clearly the best passers right this minute. If he wasn't going to Ohio State, where they already have Julian Sayin and Aaron Nolan and all of the equipment they have there at quarterback, I think St. Clair Clair could start for a lot of teams as a true freshman. I just see an accurate pocket passer who knows where to go with the football. At times, I even liked his accuracy as much, if not better, than Underwood's. I think as a pure passer, you could argue he's the best in this entire class. And then I think we have to remember, you do have a lot of guys with potential who are really raw. I look at Deuce Knight's a really raw player at Auburn who I think they can get excited about. I even looked at his build and kind of his style, even though he's left-handed. I mean, it kind of brought up some Lenora Sellers vibes to me where I go, this guy's clearly a dual threat. He's got a monster build, and if you just give him some time, you can start to develop him as a passer. And we're even seeing that with Sellers this year, the last 3 or 4 games. He's really coming on as a passer, too. I think that's a threat. And I think I'm curious to see with Zollers at Missouri. I think, he's a guy with a basketball background too. A lot of these guys have multi-sport backgrounds. It's incredible how athletic all of them are. But I think Zollers at Missouri kind of stylistically feels a little bit like Riley Leonard, but I think he might have a better arm than Riley Leonard. We'll see where the future with Missouri goes, because look, they've loaded up this offense the last 2 years to make a run. Kind of a little bit disappointing this year. I know they're still ranked, and there's plenty of controversy behind that. But where does Eli Drinkwitz have Missouri going with Zollers at the helm in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Longstreet is a guy that I kind of liked a little bit. He's got a very, very strong arm. A lot of people say he has the strongest arm in this class right now. So going to a school in USC that's obviously known for developing quarterbacks, I don't think he'll be the starter next year. Obviously, I think Jaden Mayava will be the starter for USC next year with Lincoln Riley. But after that, I could definitely see Longstreet being the guy. And very, very talented quarterback. Obviously, there's a little bit of development that needed there, as there is really with any high school recruit. But Longstreet's got a lot of potential. And then Keelan Russell, the other one, Dalton, he's playing at one of the highest levels of high school football in that Texas, I believe 6A that he's playing at right now. Yeah, 6A classification. And he's playing at Duncanville. And so they're a very loaded team. They're one of the best teams in the country. His top receiver, Decorian Moore, is the number 4 overall recruit in the country. So you have the number 3 overall recruit as a quarterback and the number 4 overall recruit as a wide receiver. It's pretty insane what Duncanville has. But Keelan Russell, man, is such a good player overall. He's obviously got a lot of physical tools as a passer, really good runner as well. I think that going to Alabama, again, he probably won't be the guy immediately. I think Ty Simpson will be the guy there to start. But I could see Keelan Russell being the guy very, very soon. I think he's going to a great situation with Kalen DeBoer there to really shine in Alabama.
I was just going to say with DeBoer, all of a sudden, since he's had Jalen Milroe for a year, he likes these dual threat guys, doesn't he? That's a newer thing for him after a couple years of Michael Penix, who is a good athlete, but he wasn't going to, run for 1,000 yards on you or anything like that. No, I think Russell, I really like his ability to create on the move, like you mentioned, in both the run and the passing games. I think he's really accurate. He's got great vision, and I think DeBoer is going to like that a lot. And look, Kalen DeBoer knows how to develop quarterbacks too, especially throwing down the field. And tell you what, if Russell gets an opportunity at any point to throw to Ryan Williams, if he can start that soon, he's going to love it. That's for sure.
Is there anyone outside of Lewis and Underwood that you think could start immediately or has a chance to start immediately at their schools in that top 10 or no?
I think I wouldn't be shocked if Russell were to compete with Simpson. I know they've been kind of grooming Ty Simpson into that role, but a lot of these guys are very raw. I think Longstreet is raw. I really like his ability to throw over the middle of the field, but I think there's definitely some polish that needs to go in there. Deuce Knight, for sure, is raw as hell. The physical tools are crazy. I think even Kamario Taylor going to Mississippi State, now he may go down there and start because of just the lack of competition and what they have going on at Mississippi State. They've been one of the worst teams in the Power 5 this year, but he's got tools like crazy. I mean, you talk about the arm strength, especially the rushing is just off the charts with him. And, it just looks like down there in Mississippi where he's playing, he's just dominating everybody. He could run over anybody at his level of competition. So I think you have a lot of guys with big-time physical tools, but we have to remember these are still 17, 18-year-old kids, and there's very few true freshmen even starting this year and every year in college football. So, again, the 3 that I think are capable of starting are Underwood, St. Clair, and Lewis. And St. Clair even has the luxury of not having to start in his freshman year.
Yeah, absolutely. St. Clair might even sit for 2 years, right? With Julian saying being only a true freshman right now, that you would imagine he's going to be there for the next 2 years. So, yeah, St. Clair might sit for 2 years and then take over as a high stakes quarterback. We'll see what happens with him. But, yeah, I think Ty Simpson, I think is pretty comfortable. He's going to probably be the starting quarterback next year. He was a former 5-star recruiter a few years ago as well, has had a lot of time at Alabama sitting there. He's had some encouraging flashes. I don't know if Keelan Russell will be playing immediately. Deuce Knight's the interesting one, though, right? Because they have other guys in the roster. Like, I know Walker White was one of their highest rated recruits last year, like a top 10 quarterback. So Deuce Knight's rated higher than him, but he is raw, right? But I do think there's a lot of pressure on Deuce Knight and maybe a lot of pressure on Hugh Freeze, where it's like, man, we got to get this going immediately. And I know the kid's raw, but he's got the physical tools that are out of this world. I mean, his comparison on 3, Dalton, was Anthony Richardson, right? So I'm not sure if he's quite that athletic, but that's the kind of like ceiling that we could be talking about Deuce Knight. And for an Auburn team that's looking for that ceiling, they might be forced to put that kid out there immediately and see what happens. So that's what we got, though, for our breakdown of 2 major flips in high school football. The number 1 quarterback in the class, Bryce Underwood, going from LSU over to Michigan, and the number 6 quarterback in the class, Julian Lewis, going from USC to Colorado. This is obviously one of the first times to talk about high school football and high school recruiting on this channel. So let us know in the comments below whether or not you want us to do more recruiting videos like this. Maybe we'll do another video closer to National Signing Day covering more than just the quarterbacks, who are the top overall recruits in the class and where are they going and who are the most high impact true freshmen we could see next year. And also, the transfer portal is going to be booming very, very soon. Let us know in the comments below how you want us to cover that. Do you want us to do a video on the top guys when they enter the portal, when their best fits, or would you rather see us cover when they commit to a school and how we like that fit as well, or maybe just both? Maybe just go all in on the transfer portal this year, Dalton, as well. So let us know in the comments below about recruiting, about the transfer portal, how you guys want us to see us attack this offseason in college football. But for Dalton Wasson, for producer Eli back there, I'm Max Chadwick, and we'll see you guys on Sunday morning for our Week 13 review show. Hey, thanks for watching another episode of the PFF College Football Show. Please make sure you guys subscribe to the channel.
Also, subscribe to PFF Plus at subscribe.pff.com for all of the same data and grades that we use in our show, plus fantasy tools, betting tools, and our mock draft simulator.